Hey, I'm Matt Coles, and I want to show you VizAlerts, a data-driven automation platform for Tableau Server. Before we begin, you should know that VizAlerts is an open-source, community-driven project, which is not at all supported by Tableau and comes as is without any warranty or guarantees of any kind. Alright, so I've got a simple viz here based on the Superstore sales dataset. And what it's showing is the profit ratio for each of the states in the US, for all the stores in each state. So I'm the CEO of this company, and I want to get a weekly alert when any of my states are not turning a profit. So how do we do that with VizAlerts? The first thing to know is that by default, the way VizAlerts decides whether to send a notification or not is based on whether your Viz is showing any data or not. If nothing shows up when the alert runs, then no notifications are sent. If something does show up, then notifications are sent. So what that means is that I can just use the filter feature of Tableau to set up my alert. So our alert's going to be based on profit ratio for the state. I can just grab the profit ratio pill, move it up to the filter shelf, and I want to know when a state has a negative profit ratio. So if they're losing money, I want to know about it. So right now I'm seeing sales data or profit data for all time. And because this is a weekly alert, I really am only interested in the previous week's performance. I want to know which states dropped below a positive profit ratio for the previous week of sales. So in order to do that, we need another filter. We need the date of the sale, and we'll just make it a relative date filter. And we'll pick the previous week. And so it looks like we've got 3 states that are all negative profit ratios for the previous week. So I've saved the changes to my Viz, I've exited web edit mode, and now we're ready to tell VizAlerts when to run this alert. Now at this point, we're assuming that your admin has already set up VizAlerts to run on your server. So the way that you tell VizAlerts when to run your alert is to click the subscribe button, just like you would for any other subscription. Click the drop down for the schedule, and we're going to pick one of the schedules that says VizAlerts, and we're going to pick a weekly schedule. And here's the email you would get from that alert. So I've got a subject alert triggered for profit by state. I've got a picture of my Viz with the offending states showing. If I click it, it'll take me to the Viz. Pretty much all this is just the same as a normal subscription would be, except that it's sent conditionally when there's data showing in your Viz. I'm sure some of you have asked yourselves, how is this different than the conditional subscriptions feature that was released in Tableau 10.1? Where if you simply check this box when you subscribe to something, you can use a normal subscription and have it only sent when there's data showing in your Viz. Isn't that the same thing? And the answer is yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. But VizAlerts does much more than that, and I would like to show you what else it can do. So here we are back in web edit mode. One problem I have with this alert is that I want to see the other marks in the data. I want to see how all the other states are doing, even as I see the states that are losing money that caused my alert to fire. And by hiding them, I can't see them anymore. VizAlerts will actually allow you to use fields in your data to instruct it what to do. We call them action fields. The first is a field to tell it what kind of action to take when the alert triggers and when to trigger it. For emails, we want a field called email action. So let's create one. Now the name doesn't have to be exact here, it just has to have email action in it. I can add whatever I want to the end of it, and VizAlerts will still understand it and pick it up. That can be helpful if you're building multiple alerts off the same data source. Now, this field is intended to return a 1 for when the alert should fire, or a 0 for when it shouldn't. So in our case, we're looking for a profit ratio that's negative, so we'll just use an if-else statement to deal with that. So now we've got a calculated field that will return a 0, when the profit ratio is fine, and a 1 when it's not. Now that we've got our email action field, I'm going to take it and drag it to the color shelf so that I can see the marks that are triggering the alert more readily. So now that I've got my alert criteria built into this field, I no longer need to hide anything that has a positive profit ratio, so I can take this filter off. So at this point, to set up the alert, you do the same as you did before. You'd subscribe on the weekly schedule, and you'd only be alerted when one of these marks was orange for the previous week's sales. Now, that's all well and good, but let's get a little fancier. Let's say that we only want to email the people, the sales managers, in charge of the states that have a negative profit ratio for the previous week. What we can do is we can use another action field called email to. There we go, email to. So once again, the name is flexible. We can add whatever we want to the end. And what we're doing is we're overwriting the default to address for the emails that VizAlerts is sending. The previous one was sent just to us because that's the default when you don't tell it explicitly who to send it to. But now we want to send it to our sales managers. So we happen to have their email address in there. As you can see, we've got sales manager email over here. How convenient. Sales manager email. So all we have to do is actually add that in this field, and whatever email address is in there, it will send it to. Now, once again, we need to remember that that field will not be used by VizAlerts unless it's actually somewhere in the Viz. So we're going to put it on the detail shelf. And the reason we're going to put it on the detail shelf is because we don't actually want it to show up anywhere in here. We could put it on labels, I suppose, but it wouldn't look very good. We need the data in there, but we don't need it to be visible. So here's what the alert looks like now. We've got 3 emails instead of just 1. Each was sent to the sales manager of the state that has a profit margin lower than 1 or lower than 0. So you can see each email address is different here. Three different emails. Notice that the content of the email is still the same image of the Viz. It hasn't been customized for them at all. VizAlerts will let you customize the body of the email as well. So let's take a quick look at that. In order to customize the body of the email, we need to add a new calculated field. As you might have guessed, it's called email body. It's important to know that the email body field is expecting you to input HTML text. So let's just paste something I've got made here already. I'll walk you through it. So we have a text string, profits in the great state of, and then here I've got the name of the state for my data, whatever that is, put it here. Needed its attention. And then I've got 2 break tags. Now this is the HTML part. So I actually want a couple carriage returns in the body, and that's what these represent. There's plenty of online help resources for figuring out how to use the HTML format. Now, one important thing that I've done here is I have this text string called VizImage. And what that represents is called a content reference in VizAlerts parlance. What it means is take the image of the Viz and inject it into the body of the email at this position. So VizAlerts knows to look for this string, this specific string, and treats it in a special way. I've got an open parentheses here, all the way to the end here. And what I've done is I've put the name of the Viz, as you could access it on Tableau Server, right here as if it were a function, like almost as if it were a Tableau function. So I'm saying take the Viz image of this particular Viz from our Tableau Server instance, and then I've added a URL parameter on the end of it that simply filters the sales manager email to whoever the sales manager email address is for that state. And then I close the parenthesis here. And you'll notice that this is just one big text string. All of this is text. There's no special function being called. It's really just static text here. So let's take a look and see what emails are generated now. We've got one going to Jay Seinfeld saying prophets in the great state of Arizona need attention. And we only see that mark on here because that's the only state that had sales in the previous week that were owned by Jerry. The next one going to Newman has Pennsylvania only, and there's Pennsylvania. And the last one that went to J. Peterman has prophets in the great state of Washington needing attention, but we've also got Kentucky over here. And that's because J. Peterman owns both Washington and Kentucky. Both states had some sales in the previous week, but only Washington is the state needing attention right now. Now, if both states had needed attention, J. Peterman would have gotten 2 emails with this same image in both. And that's because we've added the name of the state to the body. And because we did that, we increased the level of detail that the alert is actually running at. So he would have gotten one for Washington and one for Kentucky. If you didn't want that to be the case, you could simply keep the name of the state out of the body and make it more generic. So that's our quick demo of VizAlerts. There's a lot more to know about how it works and what you can do with it. VizAlerts is a free tool, so you can go to GitHub, click the Releases button, and whatever the latest release is, go and get the zip file, unzip it, and you'll have all the manuals that tell you how to install, configure, and use it, as well as set it up. If you have any issues or have any questions, come over to our group on the community. You can reach it at community.tableau.com/VizAlerts. We've got a forum you can ask questions at, get help with. We're pretty responsive there, so feel free to come to us with your questions. And thank you for your time.